Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're back for week 3 of the visualization series in the Demystifying Post-Production further series. And I'm Simon Walker. I'm head of training and learning at Maxon, and I'm delighted to welcome back our bunch of expert trainers. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
So we've got a combination of things that we're going to show you this week, but we're essentially continuing our journey with visualization and the topics that you've requested over the last number of months. But also we are recording these sessions too. So let me show you here the usual things. In fact, you can see all these links if you look in the handout PDF. In the handout section of the webinar software, it has a little handy link that shows you not only the links to the recording and links to the future sessions, but also what we're going to be sharing in terms of files. There's the Dropbox link of all sorts of files that we're sharing over the course of this series. So it's in there too. But I'll just quickly tell you where those things are. And hello to Jay and to Kent and to Anders and to Glenn. Hi there. Thanks, Kent. All looking good and sounding good. Thanks for the technical check. Excellent. And hi, Rob, too. So we are going to, this is where you normally find stuff on the Maxon events page, as you probably well know by now. And this is where you can find the recordings, Maxon training team on YouTube, just search for that. And here's last week's one, for example. And also we have a number of other tutorials on there. We got the 20-second tips. These are nice little memory joggers. So once you have a look at the channel, you can see all those and you can list things out in playlists and different types of videos and so on. And also we, as you well know, regular viewers will be delighted to know we're continuing our free t-shirt thing because we want to thank you for being a member of the Maxon community. So there's a link inside that PDF. It's a special link. It has Ask the Trainer on the end of it. So if you see that link, that's the one to go to. And the password is visualization for this month. If you go there, you can download, you can order a t-shirt. Wish it were as simple as downloading. That would be so fantastic. Print your own t-shirt. Yes, there's possibly a future in that. But in this case, you can order one and then that will be sent to you. All you have to pay for is shipping. We found we couldn't get around that for the time being, but this replicates what we would have done had we been in person on one of the sessions that we usually attend on these live conferences. And talking of t-shirts, one of the other reasons that we're welcoming Master Trainer Oliver Luiza along with us is because last week we launched the NF Tree. Here it is, Maxon's NF Tree shirt. So we wanted to make a reference to the success. In fact, if I just click on this, whoops, go back here. Oh dear. Make sure you don't accidentally clear the link. Here we go. So merch store. Here we are again. So if I click on this one there, so introduced in our virtual NEB last week, we want to make a reference to the success in the community of NFTs using cinema, especially. And also all proceeds from this shirt will be going to Treedom, which is a wonderful platform dedicated to planting trees and all the greatness that that gives us as a planet. So there is a distinction between the free link for a free shirt we're sending you and this one, so that this one, all the proceeds go to Treedom. So if you'd like a tree shirt, there's the link for it. And if you would like a free one, which shows our other brands and so on, then there's the other shirt. But what we wanted to do is just share with you how Oliver came up with this design, because Oliver runs Believe TV, or is the creative director for Believe TV, and they do amazing animations and treatments for many, many different types of clients. But he very wonderfully agreed to do the design for this shirt. And so we want to give you just a few minutes before we jump into all the visualization stuff and some of the stuff about the new version of S24 that we're folding into this session too, just before that.
Yes.
So welcome, Oliver. Delighted you could join us all the way from Santiago in Chile.
Yes. Cool. So
I'm going to pass over the screen to you. And as I do that, password, by the way, Shad, is visualization for that shirt. Let's make you a presenter, Oliver. Here we are.
Perfect. Are you seeing my screen?
I can see your screen. This is a lovely tree.
Cool. So this is we're going to try to do this as quick as possible because we don't have so much time. And this is the final design. I won't go to the creative process right now because we're going to cover the technical part. If you want to know more about the creative process behind this, you can check my interview on Wednesday, the last Wednesday in 3D Motion Show. But now we are going to cover the technical part. So in here we have a kind of voxelization effect. We have the new Maxon logo over here, which is a kind of a huge voxel also. But this is the easy part. I mean, it's just a cube with subdivisions and some cuts. We have a kind of trunk with little cylinders inside. So this is a cloner with randomness in position. That part is the easy part. And then we have this, which is I'm going to try to do right now. So jump to Cinema. This is R23, by the way, because I'm going to use a plugin here in some point. So this is on a parallel view, a parallel camera, in order to get this kind of a straight line effect. But this looks in that way in the perspective. And as you can see, you can, I have in this case, a kind of voxelization effect with this little cube, which represent the blockchain kind of thing of NFT. And we have this kind of wireframe structure. And in this case is a spline, you know. So we're going to build this from scratch very quickly. And I'm going to jump to my other file. So this is my cube. I modeled this little cube with the holes inside, a kind of a cross section hole. And I'm going to separate the core, the little sphere from the cube, because we're going to use two separate cloners. And I'm going to use a cloner object. We're going to do first the cube, and we're going to go to a grid array mode, and here we are going to make like 10 per 10. Careful. And I'm going to turn off my subdivision surface, and the separation for that is going to be 75 centimeters. So we have a nice grid array of cubes. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to get rid of the cube, and I'm going to put my sphere on the same kind of arrangement, and we have this. So how is the best way to do a kind of tree shape in a kind of voxelization way? And I think that the best way to do that is to use an actual tree. No, sorry, plant. Let me search. This is so much easy in the new version of Cinema. The new asset managers is superb. But here in 23, we're going to use, for example, this tree. I'm going to use just the foliage for that. So the leaves is the object that I'm going to put inside of volume builder. So we have this kind of effect. I'm going to turn down my voxel size. I'm going to put this inside a volume measure in order to get the volume, the actual mesh. And I'm going to use a filter here. in order to increase the size of the voxelization, you know, the volume, sorry. In this case, I think that is better to use spheres because you have like a kind of more volume for this. And let me increase this a little bit. And I'm going to use this as a filter or as a volume filter for my grid. So I'm going to make this editable, current state to object I prefer because I saved the original one. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to rename this leaves volume. And then I'm going to increase my count here. Let me see. I'm going to make render instance also. 15, 15, 15. So we have more space to work. And I'm going to use a volume effector. And in order to get the thing done, we need a volume object. And in this case, I'm going to use the leaves volume. And on the volume effector, I'm going to turn off my scale parameter and I'm going to turn on the visibility. So right now we have our, sorry, this on this, yeah. So we have our volume driven our voxelization. I'm going to turn off the the editor visible tag here, and we have this kind of effect of voxelization of a tree. So this is our first step for that. So the tricky part for me was to do the kind of wireframe, and for that I use a plugin here on R23, which is Xparticle. Why is that tricky part? Because you need to kind of connect every single clone with a line. And you can do, I'm going to show you this. We can do that with a tracer, but we are going to have some problems with that. If you put a tracer here and I put this cloner and I put it in the connect element modes, we're going to have this problem. Because the tracer object is connected all the clones, and the clones has a index number, you get this result. And this is not to work because the tracer object was working from 0 to whatever the number. So we need something like that, but ordered. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I started to think how I can do this. And I remember that if you do this in a dynamic way, you are going to connect every single kind of clone with a constraint. If you know the functionality of dynamics, you can connect something with constraint, and constraint are little kind of springs between objects or points, you know. So I'm going to put my Xparticle system here. I'm going to copy this cloner and I'm going to rename this particles source, and I'm going to put here a plane, a little plane with just one polygon. I'm going to shrink down this I'm going to turn off my other clones. So the idea here is to have a little plane in the place of every cube. I'm going to connect all this with our connect object without weld anything. And I'm going to make this an instance in order to get a real mesh. And from this, I'm going to create particles. So in my XP system, I'm going to my XP emitter. I'm going to put on the object mode. I'm going to put this connect object in the object field, and I'm going to emit just one particle from the center of every polygon. And in this case, we have the same amount of polygon that in the cloner object with the little cubes. So we're going to stick the particles to the source, just one particle per source element. Here, we're going to make just one shot of that. And in the display, we're going to put circles in order to get some feedback. And we have right now one particle for every polygon on this connect object. So we need to connect these particles, and in a kind of grid way. So for that, I'm going to use a dynamic object. This is cool because we're not going to use dynamic, but we're going to use the constraint anyway. And sorry, this is not the correct object. I'm going to use constraint object. Let me search for that constraint. And we are going to make connections between the particles. So connect at birth, and if we go to the XP emitter and go to display, we're going to turn on the display constraint. So let's see what's happened. We're going to increase the connection limit and the radius. Let me see if that is going to work. And we have a mess. And that's because we need to kind of tweak this. We have a connection limit of 23. In this case, it could be just 8. And if we try to increase the radius, you are going to get some diagonal lines, but we don't want that. We just want the parallel lines, So with this configuration, I get instantly this kind of a wireframe effect. And then we can use a generator inside Xparticles, XP trail. We are going to use the emitter, and we're going to write the constraint as splines. So if I turn off my display constraint, let me see if I'm missing something. Constraints, okay. Why are not showing that? XP12, the emitter is okay. I don't know why it's not showing my splines. Let me see. Here we go. I need to turn on the beard constraint. So we have this kind of mesh structure. But if I turn on my original cloner, the structure finally is inside of my voxelization. So we need to increase the volume for just the wireframe. So in this case, I'm going to go to my original setup from Volume Builder. I'm going to turn on everything. And in this case, I'm going to use the delete and erode, and I'm going to increase that amount to, for example, 10. me see if it's produced. I'm going to turn off everything. I don't know if we have some changes here. Maybe, yeah, this is weird. I don't have feedback from the viewport for some reason. But here we go. For some reason, the volume object is taking too much time. And I don't have like a viewport feedback. But let me try another thing. I'm going to use this same volume. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to use it with a displacer, increase the volume of this, and I increase a little bit more. And I'm going to use this as a source for a volume measure. Let me see. Yeah, that is weird because it's the volume measure. Sorry, I can. There you go. So we are going to use this for the overall structure. So I want to turn on everything, and for the particle source, let me turn everything on again. I'm not going to use the original volume. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to get rid of the original one. I'm going to use the new one, and the new one, I'm going to use the new object, and I'm going to increase a little bit more of that. Let me see if this is going to work. There you go. I'm going to make this object current state to object. And I'm going to feed this volume with this new volume object. And then I'm going to turn off that new. And I'm going to use this volume object on this cloner. And right now, we have the structure with this bigger volume driven the wireframe, and you can just increase this number in order to get a new volume, a bigger volume. If you want it. Let me see. Let me turn on this again. Everything. And if you make a current state object from that, you just have a bigger kind of result. You see, and that's is how I make the wireframe, and then I just put let me search over here. Then I make a most spline object because I love most spline object, and I rewrite this spline just because I want to have more control. There, and then I just put a redshift tag object, and I use the cylinder or capsule, I guess. Yeah, the capsule mode. And if I render this, we are going to have some matching on our splines. So with this tag, you don't need to do a real match. So that is all. I mean, that is the base. I want to leave right as it is. As you can see, you can have that wireframe look with the redshift tag. So that is the technical part.
That's very cool.
It's really ingenious how you're combining the cloner and the volume as well.
Yeah, we don't have too much time to explain the whole process in a proper way, and then I start to thinking how you can do this on just like a vanilla C4D, and I share with Simon and the guys a file called, let me see, I have this one in S24, and that file called matrix grid. We can share with our viewers this file, and in this case I made a little espresso in order to get the kind of the same effect but without X particles. It's a little bit tricky, but it's pretty straightforward, and I leave this file for you guys.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't use or you don't have X particles, you can do it anyway.
That's very generous of you. That is, we often get questions about how we do things in different software and how would you then do that in Cinema. So it's great to see both ways. And the X particles does work already in S24 if you own both of those.
Yes.
So you can play with that too.
Exactly.
Thank you, Oliver. That's very kind.
That's all for me.
Sharing that file. You can see that.
I take too much time.
No, that's always interesting to see your creative process and also the problem solving, and also how you are then designing everything with the idea of having changes, like you're talking about changing the volume and then being able then to change things based on that, which is, as I understand it, your life dealing with clients.
Yeah, that is the process. I mean, the creative process is be prepared to changes, always.
Yes,
on the last minute.
It's almost as popular as it depends as an answer. Yes, can we change this?
Yeah.
But with some nice comments. Thank you, Jay and Drake and TJ as well. TJ is wondering when you're going to save the file as well. So we're going through.
I don't have time for that.
We don't have time to save, TJ.
Exactly. We like the risk.
Excellent. So we'll upload that file, and you should see that in a few minutes' time, actually, on that link. And just as a reminder, all the upload files for this series are in the Dropbox link, which you can see in the PDF file that we've got in the downloads section of the webinar software. There's handouts, it's called, not downloads. There's a little button that says handouts. So if you haven't got any access to any of those, or you're watching the recording, just email us training@maxon.net, and then we can organize a link for you. But we'll put all those links in the YouTube recording description too. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Oliver.
Thank you.
And I believe that yes. By the way, if you are in a team and you would like training from the Maxon training team, part of the licenses for your team come with complimentary sessions in a variety of different languages. And Oliver runs them in Spanish as well. So please let us know, training@maxon.net, if that would work for you. Fantastic. So I believe then, am I handing over to you, Matt, for the next bit of our visualization series?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Okay, let me change the screen. Let me throw the screen at you again.
There we go. I'm ducking. Okay, so for this little bit, we're going to take our first sort of delves into S24, which of course was released on Tuesday last week. Keeping with the visualization themes, obviously one of the things we want to show is some of the new stuff that works with visualization. With the new creation and placement tools, which are a really great addition. So very quickly, just setting up my new S24 scene, I'm going to create a plane. There we go, that took its time. Add a cube. And I'm just going to put that there. And then I'm going to create another small cube. Oops, let's make a small cube. And I'm going to use my new placement tools, which are up here. And I've got 3 placement tools, and I will be going through each of them. And after I go through just kind of like the basics of how they work and what they do, I'll be handing over to Darrin, who kind of show you some real use cases for them. So the new place tool, if I've got my cube selected in my new place tool, if I click, we now have the ability of placing items on surfaces. This is something that people have been wanting to do in Cinema 4D since time immemorial. But particularly in the last few years. So if you're a visualizer and you want to be able to place objects onto things, then you can do now with this place tool. And as you can see, I've got some gizmos, and the purple ring gizmo will allow you to rotate, and this gizmo will allow you to scale. So you can easily and quickly add objects to flat surfaces and get them to stick, which is really great. Now, there are a few modifier tools that you can use. So if I just press shift, then I can scale up and down without having to use the gizmo itself. But if I press control, then I'm actually creating a clone, well, an instance, as it were. And you can even scale up and down the instance as well, which is incredibly useful and something that people have been wanting to easily do. So you can see that I can do that. And I've got a whole bunch of instances that I can scale up and down really quickly without having to swap to a different kind of model mode. You can see that if you would rather have direct copies, then you can do that in the tool as well, instances or render instances. You can even keep orientations depending on where you want to work. So is it a norm of the object that you're working on? Is it custom? Where is the central point? Is it axis or the bounding box? So at the moment, it's using the bounding box to work out the outside of my object and place itself on there. So it's really simple to just kind of grab what you want and then, make quick piles of things, one on top of the other, which previously used to involve a lot of time and using all 4 of the views to make sure that everything was sitting correctly on it. So that is a really great new tool and feature. Is there anything you want to add to that one, Darrin, before I go to the scatter?
No.
Yeah, I like this one. This is going to make life so much easier in putting things on things, which is the point in general. Okay, so let's go to a new one, and this is the new scatter placement tool. So if I've got a cube, I like cubes, and let's create a sphere as well. So let's create both of them. I can select these 2, and my new scatter pen will allow me to randomly, funnily enough, scatter objects wherever I draw this kind of line. And you can see that it's just happily doing it. It's in a random fashion. This is done by the fact that my tool is set to random. And you can just keep adding to it. And then when you're done with the tool and you go to move, you have a scatter object that has all of that information in it. If you want to access the underlying stuff, you can make it editable by pressing C on your keyboard. And then I have all of the instances of the original that I can use. Undoing that for a second, so I'm back at my pen and my object. Can I add some more stuff? Yes, I can. And then I can, if I want to, hold down Control and get rid of the clones that I don't want to use. The scatter pen has some really useful features. You can control the radius that it spans stuff out. So you can have it expand a little bit wider and it'll do more stuff that'll fill it. You can increase the object spacing so that it's not so bunched together. We can use splatterings. I think I need to do more than that, don't I? Which just gives you a little bit more of variation and variety and creation of stuff, which is really good. You can choose to clone from a selection or from an object palette. So because I had the sphere and the cube selected, that is what it will use to create my splatterings. And just something that I discovered really quickly, which is one of the reasons why I think I'll be using this tool, is I'm going to make a super quick demonstration of a torus, and I'm going to shrink that. And then I'm going to create a copy, which I shall make +Z. And then using these two with my scatter pen, I'm going to just adjust my settings. So I want to turn off my, lower my object spacing to about 50. I want to turn off random because I don't want it to be randomly ordered. I want it to be one after the other. So it will always do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I'm going to turn my reference point from bounding box, which is the outside of the object, to axis, which is its central point. And then I'm going to draw, and hooray for really quick chains, which is just one of those things that just takes forever. Trying to do it any other way and faffing around with it, but this just really quickly. You can tell I'm really excited by this one, just because. And it does quite a good job actually of kind of like spacing stuff and giving you that nice link. The only thing you can't seem to do at the moment is go up and down. So I can only do stuff on the XZ plane. I'm sure you'll be able to tweak it later on. But that's one of the fun little things I discovered when using the scatter pen.
Matt, quick question for you.
Okay.
Side comment, I'm enjoying the term splatterings. I might have to lobby for that to be the official term.
Of course.
But Isaac's asking, could the scatter pen be used to draw on a snapped grid or shape axis?
Now we tried that. I have to say the other day when I was showing Darrin this, as far as I'm aware, we did try. I tried to do this on at least a spline. I tried to do a spline snap, and I didn't get anything from it. That's because I had the wrong thing selected for starters. But the tool doesn't seem to snap to anything that way. However, of course, this is a new tool, and that sort of feedback and that sort of correct request will, I think, undoubtedly end up back in the laps of the developers to go, this would be really cool if you could do that. I mean, I know I'll put in that request as well. So
if I may add one thing here, you can like paint on surfaces. So if you have like a landscape object or something, you can paint that stuff, the chains, onto the surface of the landscape, for example.
Oh, don't paint landscapes to it. That would be a bad idea. Yeah, so it will follow the outline of that. So you can do it that way, but I didn't manage to quickly find a way of making it do it to a spline. I don't know if you know of a way around that, Jonas.
No, it's meant to work on surfaces, not on splines.
Okay. Right, fair enough. That's cool. Okay, anything else before I quickly move on to the dynamic tool?
Just a follow up from Glenn about being able to paint on points and vertexes, but I think that's answered by the fact that it's supposed to be surfaces at this stage.
Yeah. So the surface part will do that for you.
Yeah.
And can you randomize the size of the instances?
Ooh, if I go back to this, you can do a scale min and max.
Yeah, that's randomizing it.
Yeah, so if I do, what is my machine doing? I've got to keep remembering to select those two. So yeah, you've got some randomization in there as well, just by changing the scale min and max, what it will go to. So minimum scale, maximum scale.
This is a
along with the
huge
rotation.
time saver.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a leading question from Rob about using sweep on a rail spline. This might be something that we are covering in the future. Does that overlap, Jonas, with something that you've got in mind?
Sorry, what was that again?
That was Rob's question about using a sweep on a rail spline and using scatter.
Well, you can of course sweep a spline and then paint on that, but you need geometry. As soon as you have geometry, it will work.
Got it.
Okay, cool. Right. So my next quick tool then, and this is great, is the dynamic placement tool. So let's create a quick scene. For anybody that's ever had one-to-one training with me, you'll know that I create cubes all the time. Let's just create a bunch. So we have a bunch of cubes and we want to dynamically place them. And we now have the dynamic placement tool, which is absolutely great. So if you've got a bunch of stuff that you want to kind of fill a container or add like a pile, we can use the dynamic placement tool. And as I move this, hey, I now have a bunch of stuff that I can drag down, and you can see that it doesn't go below the floor. And if you want to, you know, say have other things like, say, I know the demonstration in the manual is a pencil. So if you had that and you've got a dynamic placement pen, we just move it over there. Oh, it helps if I'm in. You can see that it will interact with the others. So if I want this lying on top, I can stop that, and I can still, you know, move stuff around, which is going to be super helpful, and it just stops. You can also increase, continue dynamic ability. Dynamic ability, is that a word? It's dynamic creation by holding down Shift when you do these things as well. So if you're the sort of person that likes to drop stuff on floors, you no longer need to have to make everything dynamic. So if I, oh no, I've got to make sure I don't have that one selected. My fault. So if you want to throw these at the wall, if I hold Shift down on my keyboard and then throw, they will continue. And the moment I let go, they will stop where they were. So if I do this and just hold Shift, just move until I let go of Shift, they'll keep being dynamic. And then I've got non-dynamic seated objects. I quite like doing this, which is to hold down Shift, throw it at a wall and let go. So you get this kind of mid collision splatter, which is just this is so easy to do now because you only have to use the dynamic placement tool. You can control bits of gravity and the movement friction and the bounciness of these objects as well, kind of in the same way that you could do with the dynamics tag that you would use on the original objects when we used to have to do it, I suppose, which we can call the old-fashioned way now.
Mid-collision splatter is the new name for my band.
I have a question, Matt, about this.
Of course.
Does this tool working with stepper frames like your global settings from Dynamics? I mean, when you try to move and that kind of things, maybe you, for example, are going to pass through the floor, for example, and yeah. I'm wondering if this tool is working with those settings. I mean, with the global dynamic settings, especially stepper frames. You know something about that?
This is, forgive me, but I don't think this is animatable or recordable at this point. Is it, Jonas?
Well, yeah, I know that, but
I'm just double checking. Well, the thing is the global dynamic settings are referring to the bullet engine, but these sort of dynamics that we have here are not based on bullets. I didn't try it yet, but I think it won't have an effect.
Cool.
The dynamic settings.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool because it's not based on bullet, so that's cool.
Yeah, what I'm currently checking is if you can record the dynamic simulation here using Cappuccino. But okay. I will get back to you in a second.
All right, no worries. That's it from my quick part of the demonstration, which is just basically a tour of those 3 new settings, which I will now go over and hand over to Darrin to show you some probably more real-world examples of them.
Okay, we'll see what I can do in the time we have left. So the render for today's session is the goal with all the graphs. So let's show my screen. And Can you see my screen?
We can.
Yep.
Okay. All right, excellent. All right, so I already have some like models of leaves. I have a number of assets already here. Let me just show them to you. So there's some sticks and there's some dried leaves, and let's see, there's 2 bushes and various grasses. And I am going to use the scatter to get these in front of the camera. So I think camera 4 is the view that I'm most interested in. So I definitely want in the distance a forest. So I have a tree from the presets from the content browser or asset manager. That's already in here, it's selected, so I'll just go ahead and go to the scatter pen. Now, the size of this one tree is about 400 centimeters across, roughly. That's at least for the circle spline. So I go to the, with it selected, I call up the scatter, and then, Matt mentioned that if you hold control, then you can remove some of the things that come up, but that's the same as switching to this remove option. But I'm going to go with add. I'm going to go with selection, which is the generic pine tree control and everything inside of it. And let's see, let's do bounding box. I've randomized the scale a bit. Let's see, the rotation. I'm only going to put on the, I think that's the P, the pitch. And this, I want to be in the distance, so I'm actually going to middle mouse click and drag to increase the radius of this. Now, splats is off, and I have a large density with a negative object spacing. So I'm actually going to get a tremendous amount clustered together. And if I want those to respect the the distance between them and get less sort of clumping and bunching, then I would definitely turn on the splats for that. But I'm going to leave that off and up that density, and I'm just going to paint some off in the distance like so. And they're still pretty big, but I'm okay with it. So there's something. I'm going to rename this trees, and I'm going to hide it from my view and go on to the next bit. So for the next part, I'm going to throw the grass in here. So the grass that I'm going to use first is the cut grass from the asset browser or content browser. So I'm using all 3 of the cut grass objects, and I'll again call up the scatter with selection turned on. This radius is pretty good. I'm middle mouse clicking and dragging to adjust the radius here, just like with any other brush that has a radius. The object spacing I'm going to set to, I don't know, like -1. And here I'm going to actually add just a tiny bit of additional rotation here. And I'm going to play with the scale max a bit. And then let's just sort of see how this comes in. Okay, cool. So we're just getting some of these grasses here. In the back, I'm going to make a much larger radius, and why not jump out of the camera so I can do this all sort of in one stroke. I'm just going to come around like this. Now there's some that are popping up where I don't want them. So going to the remove allows me to, not only does it have a different radius setting, but the brush is actually now oriented to the camera. Now, some of these are being blocked by geometry in the scene. Excuse me. So I only need to hide this, where'd it go? Garage model. There it is. I just need to hide that, and then I can continue removing those. Oh, there's still some geometry in my way. So let's just go back here and show that garage model again. So I'm not going to spend too much time fine tuning this because I want to add a lot more in here. So back in the add mode, I'm going to reduce that object spacing, and I'm going to come in here and add a little bit more in just a couple of areas, just so it's a little more patchy. And let's see. Oh, I just did a click. It's sort of calculating, so I'm waiting for it to catch up with me. But I also want to get the sticks and the dried leaves in here as well. And one thing I noticed is that when we have a scatter object selected, then when we're adding to that, it does not scatter onto the existing scatter. So let me show you what I mean here. I'm going to select the leaves. Where are they? Here they are. So I got a number of them here. I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to call up the scatter. And here I'm going to go with a object palette, and it's added all of those leaves there. And let's see, all of the other stuff is okay. So now I'm going to click and drag and start pinning them in here. And actually, now it's not really doing it, but there was, but earlier the stroke was sort of flipping around because it was seeing these other scatter objects. And to fix that, all I had to do was just hide the scatter. So anyway, let's just come out a bit and get those in. My cinema is thinking. Wow, 12:52. What kind of questions are popping up, you guys, since we're getting sort of low on time?
There were some questions related to the scattering and the duration in which you hold the shift key pressed, and how long do things keep falling, for example.
Oh, so that was with the dynamic place. And so things, what Matt was saying was that things will continue to fall basically until you let go of the button. And then they'll just stop wherever they're at. So I can, shall I shift gears and illustrate that, you think?
Why not? Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's see, we'll get a nice large landscape, and let's say -y. Okay, and then we'll take some cubes like Matt did, and we'll go with the dynamic place. And let's see, it's not really like popping them all out. So already I'm doing something a little differently than Matt, but I was hoping that I'd be able to scale them here. So maybe one of you guys can give me a better option than what I'm doing right now, which is basically just giving them all a little bit of separation. And then I'm going to go back with the dynamic place, and I can use the scale to bring them in together. Oh, I forgot one there. I can sort of scale them all in, and then with the move arrow here, I can just move it down, right? Now I'm going to hold shift and press down, and it's just going to keep going. I've let go of the mouse, but once I let go of the shift, then it stops, okay?
Is there a possibility, Clive was asking a question about espresso and writing a formula. Clive, perhaps if you could give us some more information about how you were, what you were asking for espresso to do with that one. But I just wondered, is there a way that you could script perhaps that? Or I suppose it's not really relevant in this case because it's about the placement of it.
Wow, I'm not sure. That might be a bit, that's a bit deep for me, because I'm still, you know, learning and understanding all of these new tools, because they are actually very new in how they behave and everything. So yeah, that's a good question, which I do not have an answer for. I'm sorry.
No worries. I mean,
I didn't catch it. What was the question again?
I think the question Clive was asking was about combining this effect with espresso, or perhaps scripting elements of it.
No, that's not possible, because this is a tool. It's not like an object or something. It's just, well, just a tool that helps you like populating your scene with objects, and helps you with your set dressing, more or less.
Yeah. In a way, for less clicks, as Matt was showing us earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Glenn was asking, now you got the scene back, Darrin. Glenn was asking, is it possible to scatter some leaves on this scene here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so I'm switching back to the garage scene, and you know, I failed to mention that this that the garage in this scene was actually designed and modeled by Joe Hill at Traditional Design Services. So I just wanted to give him a shout out and thank him for letting us use this for the demo today. But
Glenn's come back. He wanted the leaves done with dynamics, if that's possible.
Sure, it is. So that's actually awesome. So I'm going to select the leaves here. I think that's all of them, and I'm just going to get. So you can see how the brush is sort of intersecting with the grasses that are already there. That's what I wanted to show you earlier. So let's hide the grass, and then I am going to. Oh, it's still seeing it. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get some leaves in here. Now, what I can do is I can set this scatter to edit mode. All right. Now, with this edit mode, we can actually select, move, scale, rotate individual assets here. So I haven't tried this in this way, so I'm going to select some of these here, and then let's turn off solo. And let's see, I have, it says 102 elements. I think it probably got something else, but I'm going to go to now the dynamic place. And here we go. And so I can, let's see, let's move these up. Okay, and let's say I want to throw them against the fence or so. So let's pull them back a bit. Now I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag on that arrow. And oh, it just went through. So there's something going on with the colliders that I'm missing. Maybe it's the size of these. So maybe I need to reduce the scale here a bit. And I wonder with the colliders if in visualizing them, if it's actually going to recognize instances and render instances, because I'm actually not sure. But you can see that this was the scatter, and I was able to select a number of those scattered leaves, and I am using the the dynamic behavior of this, what's it called again? The dynamic placement to, you know, modify where they're at. And I don't, my machine's just really slow. I'm really sorry, everybody. We're not getting a lot of responsiveness at this point, but it is working. And here's the thing, once you get it where you want it, you do need to go back to your scatter object and disable this edit mode. And then it sort of locks everything back in, okay? So, you know, don't leave that edit mode on if you don't have to. Like, you don't want to stay in polygon mode all the time. You just go there when you're messing with the polygons. So let's see, where are we on time? We're a minute over.
We're just about to wrap up, Darrin,
Yeah.
I think, just because we're at the top of the hour. And I could remind everyone, in fact, I will in a second, about our session on Thursday for Ask the Trainer. But that's the interesting thing about running multiple sessions like this, and trying to keep to time as well. But we have another session next week where we're picking up on some of the other new features of S24. So please let us know if we didn't answer any of your questions this time around. Reach out to us, training@maxon.net, and we can squeeze them into future sessions. I mean, that's one of the advantages of meeting with you every week as well. So let me in that case, let me make me presenter.
Okay.
Hang on. Here we are. And case in point, if you go to the events page on maxon.net and just click on the news button that says events there, then this is next week's section where we are going to be looking at specifically how to rig and animate a car and how you can then mess with the physical and the standard renderers and organize your paint materials, and a bit of Redshift in there as well. And talking of Redshift, also we'll have available shortly on the events page, we're going to be talking about Redshift in more detail on Thursday, because this Thursday is the 4th Thursday of the month, and we run Ask the Trainer sessions every 2nd and 4th Thursday. And because Redshift's come along, we're going to dedicate Thursday's Ask the Trainer to Redshift. So that's both the shipping version of the Mac and PC versions, which now are both officially available. So please come along to those and throw your questions at us as well, and we'll be delighted to see them. Thank you so much, by the way, for all the questions and the engagement and the comments. We really appreciate it. And don't forget those download locations for the file resources. The recording will be up in a couple of hours when it finishes processing. And Greg's asking, how do we watch it again? Just go to that YouTube channel. In fact, I'll just show you here. It's the Maxon training team on YouTube. Just search for that, and that's where you see these various recordings and all the ones that we do. So all the Ask the Trainer ones as well. So last time we did Ask the Trainer, we go on sculpting and Forger and how you work with those two workflows and so on. So questions about that. Fantastic. Thanks for the kind comments as well. Thanks, Greg, TJ, Jonathan, really appreciate it. And thanks everyone here as well. Thank you, Ellie, Jonas, Oliver, Matt, and Darrin for sharing all those things. And let us know if you've got any topics that you'd like us to cover in future ones of these. For May, we'll be covering fantasy UI, or is it fake, or is it futuristic? We'll find out what it actually means. And as a collection of those things. So that's for May, and we got other topics planned for the rest of the year, but let us know what you'd like to see. But certainly come back next week for more about S24 and more about visualization, especially car themed. Great, thank you very much. All right,
thanks everybody.
Next time, thanks for spending this time with us. And
Bye.
Bye everyone.
All right.
Bye everyone.